There have been a lot of people who have said that there's no evidence for a creator or for a God. I just think that's really foolish, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So I have spent the last 3-4 years working as an optometrist. And so I've learned a lot about the eyes, about how they work, and how to fix them when they're broken. The eyeballs are so complicated, they're so specific that there's no way that I can accept that they are the process of just blind, random evolution or natural selection. Natural selection, maybe, but only if it was guided by a creator, by a designer, because there is no way, with the way that these work, that it was done randomly or by chance. First, let's start with light. So light is a curious thing. It acts as a particle shooting straight through the air, but it also acts like a wave. And the shorter the wavelength, the more red the color will appear, and the longer the wavelength, the more blue it will appear. And so the light, when light strikes an object and it's coming towards your eyes, it is diverging. The light is branching outwards. Now that needs to be focused. So if something is super far away, we use 20 feet as our marker for super far away as far as optics is concerned. If something is 20 feet away or more, the light is no longer branching out per se, but it's traveling parallel. So you have parallel beams, which if that hit our retina, the retina is the sensory part of the eye. It's detecting the light to turn it into an image. If the light is traveling parallel, it's not going to be in focus. We're not going to see it. And so our eyes have a very simple yet very sophisticated way of focusing that light. First, it hits the cornea, and that's really doing most of the focusing. So that's the clear part on the front of the eye. That makes the light point in very, very dramatically. The goal, of course, is to get that focused on the retina so it's nice and clear and we can see what we need to see. Now, people who are probably 45-ish or older know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to change your focus, though. If something's super far away, it's different than if it's really close up. The lens inside of the eye can actually change shape. So imagine this. This eyeball is just randomly mutating and natural selection is doing its thing. It not only, just the fact that we're sensing light to begin with is phenomenal. It's a miracle. But to focus it at the front of the eye just right so that it's in focus when it hits the back of the eye, that's already phenomenal. That's already quite amazing. But to have a lens in between that changes shape to allow us to automatically change focus depending on the distance of the object, that just screams of divine intervention to me. And this process, it's happening automatically. We don't even consciously think about it. And if you hold out your phone or you hold out a book, your lens is snapping exactly to the right distance very, very quickly, so much that many people don't even think about it until they hit a certain age and they start to lose that ability. But I mean, how merciful is that? That we not only get to see far away, but we get to see up close as well with our own natural eyes. Now, back to the light. It's focused by the cornea. It's further focused and adjusted depending on the distance by the lens. And then it hits the retina. Now, here is the most curious thing of all. So the light is electromagnetic radiation. So it's light, and it hits the retina, and the retina is packed with different cells. We'll call them rods and cones. Now, cones do more of the color perception, and rods do more of a black and white. Around your center vision, the cones are packed very, very tightly. And so when we're using our center vision, we're discriminating a lot of detail and we're discriminating color. And that's done in the center. As we get further out into the retina, it becomes more of the rods. That's the black and white. That's going to be more dim lighting, night vision, not like X-ray night vision, but more of your dim light settings. The rods are going to help you detect what little light there is when it's a little darker. There's not a whole lot of light. So just right there, there's a variety that gives us a range. Okay, we've got elements of the retina that help us in bright light during the day, help you see color, help you see detail. And then there's elements to the retina. It kind of shifts over in dimmer light to help us to navigate, help us to still see as good as possible. Now, of course, we don't see as good as an owl per se, but I'd say for our purposes, it's really nice. I mean, imagine if just a single light went out and you couldn't see anything. That would be horrible. That'd be hard to live with. And now let's focus on the light again. So the light hits the retina, either a rod or a cone. The retina is then going to release a chemical. So we've gone from electromagnetic radiation to then triggering a chemical response. Okay, this chemical is then going to actually trigger an electrical impulse. And this electrical impulse travels from the cone or the rod down to the optic nerve, which then comes out the back of the eye. And the optic nerve, it's so curious because it branches, and then it one part goes one way, one part goes the other way. And one eye, I mean, that optic nerve is branching about 4 different ways. And then it travels to the back of the brain, and then it gets interpreted as an image. Tell me how that's not a miracle. Tell me how that could have happened by chance. I mean, there's simply no way. That doesn't make any sense. We went from light to a chemical reaction to an electrical impulse to then create an image. I mean, you be the judge, but I think that just screams divine creator. Now, another thing, the cones, in order to differentiate color, there are 3 different types, and each is going to interpret a different color. And with the 3 different cone types, we get this whole variety of color. We get this whole spectrum of color just from these 3 different types of cones. So not only do we see in light, see color, see in the dark, we also have full spectrum of color, and all in a way that really still kind of baffles even the top scientists. The way that the brain creates an image is still so mysterious, and I certainly don't understand even the half of it still. But yet, even with all the knowledge available to us, we still can't really figure it out. And we certainly can't duplicate it. We can't make our own brain. Now, another thing with the eyes is we don't have just one, but we have 2. What's the benefit of that? We get binocular vision. That allows us to see depth. We get to see 3D. We can judge how far something is away from us, how closely it's coming to us, all because we have 2. So tell me how that happened randomly. I think just one eye, smack in the middle of the head, would have been good enough for just random natural selection. But no, we have 2. Surely, that was by design of the Creator to help us not only see, but to see really well, to see depth, to judge distances, all with our 2 eyes. Now, the thing with having 2 eyes that are both feeding an image to the brain is they have to be pointing to exactly the same thing. Okay, if we're like a chameleon out here with eyes pointing wherever they want to, the brain's going to be getting different images. That's going to be very difficult for it to match together into one image. And so the eyes have to be extremely precise in pointing to exactly the same spot. But you don't really notice your eyes going double when you look from left to right or up and down, because your eyes are working in tandem so precisely and so quickly that you don't even notice it happening. And you probably, I know you do, take it for granted unless you've experienced double vision, and then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But even with your eyes moving so fast, you don't ever lose that synchrony between the 2. Isn't that amazing? And you've got 6 muscles all controlling the eye, making very, very fine movements. Super fast, super accurate. And here's what else. Your pupils, okay, and that's the black part of the eye. They get bigger and smaller depending on how much light is coming in. Okay, if your pupils were too big and you go into a bright room or you go outside in the sun, it's going to be too much light. It's going to be too hard to see. And so your eyes automatically adjust for that. They shrink down small in the bright sun, so you don't get so much light that it overwhelms you, and you can still see. But if you went like that into a dark room, there would be hardly any light at all coming in. You wouldn't be able to see a thing. And so they open up nice and big in the dark to let in as much light as there is. What little light is in that room, it opens up so it can get in, and you can see better in the dark. And you don't think about that either. The eyes do it automatically. The eyes and the brain take care of that for you. You don't even think about it. Now there's another thing. The the eyes do need to be lubricated. They have to have a layer of moisture on them, or else they will dry out. It won't really work and it won't be comfortable. Those of you with dry eye know exactly how uncomfortable it can be. If they're even a little bit dry, you will feel it and it won't be happy. And so God even thought about that. He made a way to keep it lubricated. You have glands up here that shoot out this watery substance that we call tears, and it's filled with all sorts of enzymes. It's filled with bacteria fighting white blood cells. It's like a self-preserving fluid. And not only that, your eyelids, they're lined with glands all up and down, big old glands. And the oil goes onto the surface of the eye so that the tears don't evaporate off too quickly. It's like everything's been thought of. Everything has been considered. And every time you blink, it's replenishing the tears. You get more of the watery fluid, tears from the gland. You get more oil from your eyelids. And the blinking as well. You easily can consciously think about it, but for the most part, you don't think about it until you start thinking about it, and then you've thought about it. But the blinking, the pupils, the eye movements, it's all so automatic. So how could it that a single-celled organism could develop into a being that can walk, talk, see with eyes that self-regulate itself, with two of them that point in the same direction, that capture light, focus it exactly, adjust that focus for the distance, change that light to a chemical response, and then into a electrical response, and then create an image with color that can see in the dark. And you're telling me that this happened randomly. If I created a device like a computer and I left it on the floor and I said, look at this amazing piece of technology, and you told me that, oh yeah, well, the metals and the screws and the plastic, it all just kind of comes together sometimes and into something that works, and isn't that amazing? I would be so offended. Yeah. And wouldn't God be offended too? That you can write off this miraculous creation that shouldn't even work, but it does work. Something that's so sophisticated and so purposeful to allow us to not only see, but to see in different situations and to not be burdened by our sight. We not only see, but we see abundantly. And I just don't understand how so many of the people who are most closely involved with the field of science and learning more about the natural world are oftentimes the ones who are the most skeptical that a creator is even involved. How can that be? How can you come to understand the intricacy of the nature around us and then deny that there was a creator involved? The Book of Mormon has a scripture that sums it up perfectly. All things denote there is a God, yea, even the earth and all things that are upon the face of it, yea, in its motion, yea, and also all the planets which move in their regular form do witness that there is a supreme creator. So I call upon all who are involved with any field of science to bear witness of the divinity of our Creator and to explain to us how miraculous it is that we can even be alive on this planet, let alone be comfortable on it. I call upon all of you, stop trifling with God. Stop denying God. Rather, ask yourself, how can I come to better know God and to better know your Creator, our Creator?